Hi there, it's Rachel Baxter. So excited to be back with you to share an update. So many things have been going on in my life personally. Some really, really challenging, some good, some exciting. Hopefully, you're all aware of so many events happening in the world that will impact all of us in profound ways. So I am attempting to do this recording. It's a Saturday night and my kids aren't in bed yet, so apologize if they're screaming or dogs or anything in the background. So I want to jump in and I'm going to all right, so our lives are complicated tapestries. So I wanted to start with this. A lot of times I just jump into the topic. But I just felt the Lord really impressing upon me. I've worked really hard over the years to live my life as one whole person. And that means that I'm just a regular person. I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I have a career and I love the Lord. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just a daughter of the King. So I just wanted to start by being really honest about how difficult things have been for me in the last number of months. I've had two close family members pass away, lots of trials in mothering, challenges with raising children in this age. Just this week, our oldest son was in a terrible car accident, but seriously, he was miraculously kept without scratch, tangling with a Mack truck. And so God is so faithful. He's so good. So the trials are there, but it causes us to have more and more reliance upon him and death to self. The Lord said to me years back, I have a gift to give you. And I'm like, what is it, Lord? And he said, Colossians 3:3. And I went and read it and it says, for you have died. And so we have to die daily, right? And so that's one part of it. And then the other part is just, even though here we are coming to the end of this age and we can see the millennial reign of Christ ahead of us, we can see this world, this kingdom under Satan passing away, everything that can be shaken is being shaken. And yet, still the Lord asks us to persevere. And so I wanted to share with you tonight, just to kick this off, that there's something the Lord is asking me to give a part of my life to right now in this season. And it's a company called Tholi. And it means the healer our Lord is. And I've really never talked about it on this channel. But again, being a whole person, I am spending a ton of time right now launching this kingdom company. And what is a kingdom company? It's something that the Lord is leading and guiding. Jesus is leading it. We're asking my business partner and I, Krista, who's my best friend, we are together launching this company with Jesus. We're listening to him. We're letting him guide us. He's supernaturally causing things to come together at his perfect timing. And it's all about bringing healing to people. And so for 10 years, I've been a part of an inner healing ministry called One Whole Heart. And that was so instrumental in causing me to be able to hear God's voice, to not have anything that separates me from him, to live as a wholehearted person. And then the Lord's brought me back into kind of this mountain of business, entrepreneurial. And the Lord gave Krista a vision of shoes that are meant to heal people through essential oils. And so the Lord gave us this perfect formulation of oils, all biblical oils, cassia, cinnamon bark, hyssop, and spikenard in this perfect formulation. And each of them work together to heal the cells of the body. And so our patent was just approved and went live on October 3rd of 2023, was published. And so it's for an oil delivery system in footwear. All right, so there's the dogs. Okay. So anyway, so that's Tholi. The healer our Lord is, restoration of cells through continuous oil delivery in footwear. So just not trying to sell anything, but wanted to share that with you. That's something we're doing. And if you want to check that out, can go to tholioil.com, because I just believe the Lord, is asking me to do this, and he wouldn't be unless he's got wonderful gifts to give our family through this and anyone who would use the products. So that's something else going on in our lives. So I'm going to jump in. And so I really want this to be kind of, if you haven't watched any of the videos, that I did this summer or recently, I want to catch you up, kind of give you the Reader's Digest version. You're always welcome to go back and watch past videos to get into detail, but I'm going to go pretty quickly through things. I'm starting off here just by letting you know, since I became spirit-filled and the Lord began talking to me in dreams and visions and angelic encounters, since 2014, there's really been three main themes. So there's been other cursory things and other things that fit into this. I didn't put it all in here, but three main things that the Lord has been talking to me about and having me focus on. So the first is the regathering of a remnant of his people before Jesus' physical return in the clouds at the last trumpet at the end of the Great Tribulation. So, the answering the questions, who are they? Who are the remnant of his people? Where are they? How will he do it? What are God's ways and what is his calendar? Because he does everything according to his calendar. And I wrote a book, and it was kind of the culmination of 7 years of the Lord releasing this particular understanding, called The Revelation of Israel. God's plan is our destiny. And I wrote that last year. So it's been out now almost 2 years. And so, that's an encouragement. If you want to understand the things I'm talking about, I feel like the Lord proved to me in doing that who his people are, where they are, and what his plans are, and that he is going to call us out of all the lands and return us to himself in his land physically in Israel before Jesus' return, which I believe happens at the end of the Great Tribulation, at trumpets. So number 2, the famine. He's been talking to me about this famine for 7 years. The famine of January 16th. And so I'll go into this more here because I always do, because he continues to unravel this. So he said, I'm raising up the Josephs. The date the famine begins is January 16th. So, but of which year? And who are the Josephs? And he's had me do a study of the signs in the heavens pointing to the appointed times of God, the Moedim. So, and then the third thing is this event that begins World War III involving 3 U.S. cities. And I will end, towards the end of this video, I'm going to go into the prophetic word the Lord gave me on October 8th, right after Israel was attacked. And specifically Iran attacking U.S. with nuclear weapons, and somehow, whether through natural means or supernatural or being attacked, that Iran's nuclear plant will be decimated. And so the Lord, said to me, a part of that, Russia, this was back in 2020, before our election, he said, Russia will take something that is not theirs. That's how wars get started. And we know that has happened. So anyways, so those are kind of the three main themes. So getting into the details where we are right now. So what have we seen in terms of the signs in the heavens? On August 21st of 2017, we saw the first solar eclipse over America. On September 23rd, we saw the fulfillment of Revelation 12, verses 1 and 2, with the sign in Virgo. On October 9th of 2022, we saw a gamma ray burst that lasted 10 minutes in the constellation of Sagittarius, which means the arrow. This happened during Sukkot Tabernacles during a super blood moon. Currently, we are seeing supernova. We're seeing Betelgeuse in Orion, which is in the constellation of Taurus, pulsating, glowing. What are we going to talk about? This upcoming planetary alignment in 2024. The second solar eclipse forming the X over top of America, but that there's also a planetary alignment of a V. And what does that mean? And of course, we're always still and waiting for the fulfillment of the next 2 verses of Revelation 12 with the red dragon. So again, if you haven't watched recent videos, I reference this often because I think it's pivotal. It's important to know. Terry Bennett, an incredible man of God who I believe is from the Lord, speaks from the Lord. He's just a man, doesn't mean he's perfect. He's a fiery preacher, but he had an angelic visitation lasting many days back in 2001, where the angel Gabriel laid out for him 3 7-year periods, and those 7-year periods have come to pass. They started in 2008, so we're in the third 7-year period. So Gabriel came back to him on April 2nd of 2022 and told him that Jesus had the scroll in his hand and was ready to open the scroll from Revelation 5. That was during the spring feast of the Lord. Then on October 5th of 2022, a year ago, last October, that the angel Gabriel came to him and said that the first seal of Revelation 6, the white horse, had been released. That was during the fall feast. And then in April of this year, 2023, during the spring feast of the Lord, Terry said Jesus himself appeared to him leading a red horse, and that red horse was released and charged at him. And that red horse is the horse of war. So we are now in the season of war. And the question is, when will the third seal of famine be released? So just a quick reference here. I brought this up at the intro, but that we saw Revelation 12 verses 1 and 2. The sign, now a great sign. So the Bible tells us it will be a great sign. This was fulfilled on September 23rd of 2017. Again, I've got a video that goes into a lot of detail showing Virgo and Leo and the planets of Venus, Mars, and Mercury, Jupiter, Sun, and the Moon. So that's been 6 years ago now. I mentioned that there was this gamma ray burst that lasted 10 minutes, which is unbelievable, pulsated out of the constellation of Sagitta. And the reference to that is from Zechariah, the book of Zechariah, which is incredible. Highly encourage you to read it. It's an incredible story. Then the Lord will appear over them, and his arrow will go forth like lightning, and the Lord God will blow the trumpet and march in the storm winds of the south. And so where do we see this arrow and going forth like lightning? 3 places, as the lightning from the heavens, from the above. Zechariah 9:14, but we also see it in Matthew 24 and Luke 17. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man. So a light coming out of the east. Okay, so this is talking about the very time of the end. This happened on October 9th, just after what Terry Bennett says on October 5th. Just reference that real quick. The first seal, the white horse, we saw this, a white light, burst of light coming out, lasting 10 minutes. So I'm gonna transition here and talk about what's coming. Again, I went into some detail in another past video, but January 16th of 2024, we will see in the heavens. So I use stellarium. I always look from Jerusalem, looking east. And sure enough, all of the planets will be aligned on beginning in January, all of the planets along with the sun and the moon. So Uranus, Jupiter, Moon, Neptune, Saturn, Sun, Mars, Mercury, Venus, lining up in a straight line. So this is unheard of, unbelievable. This only happens. I don't even know when. I don't know what the odds are. One of the planets only has an orbit of over 200 years. So Jupiter has an orbit of 12 years. It can come around every 12 years. But to have all the planets lined up in a line is incredible. So somebody's got to tell me what the math is on that. But referencing the angelic visitations I had where the Lord talked to me about the famine, because I believe the famine he told me about, it has to do with the third seal. So on January 3rd of 2016, I heard the Lord say, I am raising up the Josephs. The date the famine begins is January 16th. Tell them what is coming. And the angel of death stood there before me. I saw a vision of a pile of mechanical bows with no arrows. So the potential meaning, for Josephs, pointing to the Josephs. So who are the Josephs? It points to the Josephs, so we'll talk more about that. War has been waged so that there is no one left to shoot the bows and all the ammunition's been used up. So I just kind of want you to remember the Josephs and the bows because that'll come up again. Then a year later, now it's been 7 years ago, coming up in January of 2024, that same angel came back, the angel of death, and said, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. You've been called to see that which is coming upon the earth. Tell them what is coming." I saw a vision of 2 coins with the silhouette of a face like nickels coming together from the left and the right to meet in the middle, and the shape of a V came down like an upside down pyramid. Kind of got cut off there. So the potential meaning that the V coming down, pointing to a sign in the heavens, and the coins showing an economic shift, some kind of potential replacement in currency. So, and that all the planets are aligned. So I'm just asking the question, could it be next year because of what we're seeing in the heavens? A different view of that, this is showing Earth-centric with the planets and where they're showing up and how it looks to us like a line, but really from the Earth, really the planets look like this as they're all rotating around. That is on January 16th of 2024 with the Earth as the center. If we want to look at the sun at the center, you can see how the Earth is opposite these other planets. That's why it looks like they're lined up in a line. But yet we do not yet see the V on the 16th of January of 2024. Okay. So what about what's coming up on April 8th of 2024? So the Great American Solar Eclipse, we saw this on August 21st of 2017. I was right there, kind of right there in Nebraska. We're going to see this, another eclipse. I know there was just one this past week that was down south and cut through Texas a little bit. But this one's going to go over most of the United States, forming an X on April 8th. I've had a couple experiences with the Lord where he showed me this picture and said that it is significant, that what this is going to speak about the fate of America being sealed is significant. So on April 8th of 2024, when I saw this, it caught my breath. On April 8th of 2024, the planets will form a V in the heavens, opposite Earth, the sun in the center. This is the shape that it forms, a V coming down. So you can see Earth on one side of the sun with Mercury between Earth and the sun and the other planets forming a V from Pisces through Taurus. This is the date of the full solar eclipse seen over the United States. So again, I believe that's a confirmation. And all 7 planets are aligned on April 8th from Jerusalem, looking east with the sun in Pisces. And what it seems like they're pointing to Taurus. That's what it seems like they're pointing to Taurus, is what I observed, what I noticed. Again, all of the planets, the sun and the moon, all on April 8th. And Passover will be on April 9th, and I'll come again to talk about that in a minute. So the sun is in Pisces. So does the position of the sun matter? Where is the sun, April 8th of 2024 in Pisces? So here, this is taken from this book, Mazzaroth, which was written in 1862. Let me just read a snippet. It should seem that he who seeth the end from the beginning, that's from Isaiah, had overruled to the purposes of prophecy the placing of these emblems in the zodiac, the constellations. The emblems themselves and their ancient names may be referred to mere human wisdom in their adaptation to the predictions they have intended to transmit, but the correspondence between their purport and the place of the sun when the event so typified occurred must be the work of the spirit of prophecy, so Jesus, whether consciously or unconsciously guiding those who so arrange them. So to me, that's saying, the sun does matter. Where is the sun when events are happening? So the sun's in Pisces during the solar eclipse over America. And so is that communicating anything? Here's the sun in the constellation of Pisces with the planets all aligned. So what does Pisces mean? So this Pisces, this is taken from The Witness of the Stars by Bullinger, written again in the late 1800s. So the sign is pictured as two large fishes bound together by a band, the ends of which are fastened separately to their tails. One fish is represented with its head pointing upwards towards the North Polar Star, and the other is shown at right angles, swimming along the line of the ecliptic or path of the sun. The ancient Egyptian name, or as shown on the Dendera zodiac, is Pisces Hori, which means the fishes of him that cometh. The Hebrew name is Dagam, the fishes, which is closely connected with multitudes, as in, when I first read this, I thought it was Genesis 26. I just, read too fast. Where Jacob blessed, so then I looked up just Genesis 26, and this is what Genesis 26 is. Now there was a famine in the land. So it's talking about a famine besides the previous famine in Abraham's time when Isaac went to Abimelech. So this is the famine with Isaac that happened. So Abraham had a famine, Isaac had a famine, and then we know that there was a famine in the time of Jacob, Israel, that Joseph saved his people out of. But anyway, it actually is Genesis 48:26, where Jacob blesses Joseph's sons and says, "Let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth." Okay, so this multitude, and the fishes connected to a multitude. So kind of the story is that there's a multitude, the sun's in Pisces, and it's talking about a multitude pointing to Joseph's, okay? So I do want to just show you this to you because we're going to talk about this more here. Manasseh and Ephraim. So this is Genesis 48. Sometime later, Joseph was told, "Your father's ill." So he took his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, along with him. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," Israel rallied his strength and sat up in the bed. So Israel and Jacob, the same person. Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and there he blessed me and said to me, 'I am going to make you fruitful and increase your numbers. I will make you a community of peoples, and I will give this land as an everlasting possession to your descendants after you.'" So that's the promise that God made to Israel. "Now then, your two sons born to you in Egypt before I came to you here will be reckoned as mine." So he's saying to Joseph, "I'm going to take them as my own sons," which basically meant that Joseph was getting a double birthright. And we know that Dan lost his birthright. "Ephraim and Manasseh will be mine, just as Reuben and Simeon are mine. Any children born to you after them will be yours." So he's not saying all of your kids, Joseph, but just Ephraim and Manasseh. "In the territory they inherit, they will be reckoned under the names of their brothers. As I was returning from Padan, to my sorrow, Rachel died in the land of Canaan while we were still on the way." So Rachel was Joseph's mother. Okay, and also Benjamin's mother, "a little distance from Ephrath. So I buried her there beside the road to Ephrath," that is Bethlehem. So that's where she was buried. When Israel saw the sons of Joseph, he asked, "Who are these?" "They are the sons God has given me here," Joseph said to his father. Then Israel said, "Bring them to me so I may bless them." So Joseph brought them to his father. So what happened? Just a quick history lesson here. Joseph removed them from Israel's knees and bowed down with his face to the ground. And Joseph took both of them, Ephraim on his right towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh on his left toward Israel's right hand, and brought them close. He did that because he was expecting Manasseh to get the first birthright blessing, right? Because he was the oldest. But Israel reached out to his right hand and put it on Ephraim's head. So he crossed his arms. I just am catching that, the cross. "Though he was younger, and crossing his arms, he put his left hand on Manasseh's head, even though Manasseh was firstborn. And then he spoke a blessing over the kids." Okay, I'm going to skip to verse 19. "But his father refused and said, 'I know, my son, I know. He too,'" so he's talking about Manasseh, "'Manasseh will become a people, and he too will become great. Nevertheless, his younger brother Ephraim will be greater than he, and his descendants will become a group of nations.'" So God chose to give Ephraim, the younger brother, the firstborn blessing. Ephraim would be first. The younger blessing will be greater than, and his descendants will become a group of nations. To Manasseh, he will become a people and will become great. So in the book the Lord had me write, The Revelation of Israel, I go into this, and I believe that I prove it without a shadow of a doubt, but it's up to you to study it and determine for yourself. But So we have said that at a very early period, these signs were appropriated to the 12 tribes of Israel and borne upon their standards. This may be traced in the blessing of Jacob and in the blessing of Moses. So Taurus was assigned to Joseph. The constellation of Taurus was assigned to Joseph. And again, we just learned that's Ephraim and Manasseh, like the two powerful horns. The firstling of his firstling bullock, majesty is his, and his horns are the horns of the wild ox, the bull. With them he shall push the peoples, all of them, even the ends of the earth. And they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. Okay, so Manasseh, a great people, the United States. Ephraim, a company of nations, the nations of Great Britain, where it was said that the sun never set on the nation of Great Britain at one time. So I want to point out that 7 years ago, the Lord said to me, he said, it is time to lead. It is time to lead your brothers, Manasseh, to me. When he said that, I didn't know who Manasseh was. I do now know. I believe that was part of my destiny to understand that. And I'm not the only one. There are many people through history who have come to the same conclusion. There are dozens of books that are written that have come to that same conclusion. It is something that comes under persecution. I'm not talking about a replacement theology. I'm not saying all Christians have replaced the Jews. What I am saying is that Abraham had Isaac and Isaac had Jacob. Jacob was Israel. Israel had 12 sons. They are all Israel. If we talk about only the Jews, they are from the tribe of Judah. And they were a part of the southern kingdom, not the northern kingdom, were all 12. There was a southern kingdom and a northern kingdom and 12 tribes. And so when the Lord says over and over and over in the books of the Bible that he will return, his people will return to them, he doesn't just mean the Jews, although he rejoices. We rejoice that the Jews are back in the land of Israel, or that many of them are. But he's saying that I'm going to return all of, at least a remnant of my children back to my land. So in my book, Joseph, the standard that's given to him is a picture, perhaps a pyramid, recalling Egypt. So it said, another sign for Joseph, as seen on the Israel stamp, is a sheaf of wheat. This is based on the dream of Joseph when he saw the sheaves of his brothers and family bow down to his sheaf. Joseph is also sometimes depicted by a sheep or by a palm tree or a vine climbing up a wall. So Ephraim and Manasseh, his two sons. Ephraim is represented by a bull, which Taurus we know is a bull. It says, I have surely heard Ephraim grieving. You have chastised me, and I was chastised. Like an untrained calf, bring me back that I may be restored, for you are the Lord my God, from Jeremiah 31. And Manasseh was a unicorn, also called a reem. As the firstborn of his ox, majesty is his, and his horns are the horns of the wild ox, the unicorn. With them he will push the peoples all at once to the ends of the earth. That's from Deuteronomy. And so I'm just showing here, this is a coat of arms of Great Britain. It includes both of the lion of the tribe of Judah and the unicorn. Okay. Oh, I know what I was going to say there. So just as I was writing the book, I happened to go on a trip to Boston, and one of the buildings, there was a building from the 1700s. I looked up and I took this picture. I said, I found myself in front of the old State House of Boston, built in 1713. It's the oldest standing building in Boston. It served as the seat of government. It was also the site of the Boston Massacre in 1770 between British soldiers and the American colonies. So our history is born out of Ephraim and Manasseh, breaking with each other, fighting with each other. But on this building, you can see both it's the unicorn and the lion, as shown here. All right, so we've established that Taurus comes from or points to Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh, okay? So the sign Taurus, so this is back in the book, The Witness of the Stars. The picture is that of a bull rushing forward with mighty energy and fierce wrath, his horns set so as to push his enemies and pierce them through and destroy them. It is a prophecy of Christ, the coming judge and ruler, Lord of all the earth. I also believe that as it points to Great Britain and America, that the last 200, 300, 400 years, that's what we have seen, kind of the last end of this age. We have seen this pushing forth, this attacking, this conquering, ruling and reigning over all the nations of the earth. But that time is going to come to an end. So everything points to the important truth, and all turns on the fact that the Lord is coming to rule. This is the central truth of all prophecy. The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. All hope for creation, all hope for the world, all hope for Israel, all hope for the church turns on this, that Jesus is coming again. And that when he comes, his saints, the daughters of the King, will be with him. There is very much in the scripture of the book about the coming of the Lord in judgment and about the time of his indignation. For Enoch, who doubtless was used in arranging these prophetic signs, uttered the prophetic words, "Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all and to convict all that are ungodly." So here talking about the end of this age and judgment that is coming. And here in this book, Mazzaroth, which again was written in the 1800s, so here's a page that talks about the 12 signs, the signs given to each of the sons. I circled there towards the bottom here, Taurus, Joseph, right? And again, Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring whose branches climb over a wall. With bitterness, archers attacked him. They shot at him with hostility, but his bow remained steady, and so his strong arm stayed limber. So what I want to point out here is just that, tying back to the vision that I had where I saw mechanical bows with no arrows laying there. Here this is talking about, it ties back into Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh and a bow, a reference to the vision of mechanical bows with no arrows. And then here on this page, page 49, is talking about the types of the Levitical law and how they tied back into the constellations. So the young bull, the offering of the consecration of the high priest with Taurus, the bull. So, and then it references Exodus 29, Leviticus 8, and then also Hebrews 9, verses 11 and 12. So in these verses, we read, "This is what you are to do to consecrate them, so they may serve me as priests. Take a young bull and 2 rams without defects." So the bull were sacrificed. And same thing here. "Bring Aaron and his sons, their garments, the anointing oil, the bull for the sin offering, the 2 rams." So it was again for an offering. And then talking about the blood of Christ. "But when Christ came as high priest of the good things that are now already here, he went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle that is not made with human hands, that is to say, is not a part of this creation. He did not enter by means of the blood of goats and calves or bulls, but he entered the most high place once for all by his own blood, thus attaining eternal redemption." So we know that Jesus became the eternal sacrifice and did away with the old sacrifice method, right, of the bulls. But there is bloodshed. There is bloodshed. And I think that is, again, a reference back to war. And so Jupiter continues to move into Taurus from April 2024 through mid-2025 when it moves into Gemini. So I'm showing that here. Again, this was on April 8th of 2024, and Jupiter continues to move through Taurus and will go into Gemini. So kind of a good whole year period. We've got this period of a year. So again, from April of 2024 all the way through, I'm asking the question, could that be something significant happening for America? And then I also want to reference Great Britain, obviously, as Ephraim, and Europe to a greater degree. If this is all pointing to war, the horse of war has been released, the second seal has been opened. And so, to have war, world war, that will look like more than just a couple of nations. And it will look like, too, if America gets involved, it will look like our allies getting involved. And so that would absolutely include Great Britain and other countries of Europe. So talking about Taurus, there is right now a flashing light drawing our attention to Taurus because Betelgeuse is in Orion, which is in Taurus. Right? So this is in Taurus. And so I've, shared on this before. It's been going on for some time. There was a period of a couple of years where Betelgeuse really dimmed, and then it began pulsating. So the red supergiant star Betelgeuse is one of the most familiar sights in the heavens above, a gleaming ruddy dot at the shoulder of the constellation of Orion. Quite difficult to overlook because it's become even more eye-catching across the past few years because of major changes in its appearance, fluctuating in brightness, more than 50% brighter than normal, drawing attention, right? And then the James Webb Telescope has proven the concept of light years is erroneous. They used to think that we were seeing something that happened 600 light years ago, that it took that long to get to us. And now they're saying that the light years is not, it's faulty. What we're seeing is what's really happening right now. So just a comment that there are records from ancient Egypt that appears of a star exploding as a supernova. It was like the appearance of a second sun, and it says Webb. So anyways, again, drawing our attention towards Taurus. Why? Why is God? God created the heavens and the earth. He put all of the planets in motion. He put all of the stars in the heavens, and he did it for a purpose, all to do what he intended it to do in a system where he doesn't have to keep sticking his fingers in the system, where he created the system to do everything according to his perfect clock, right? And so I believe Betelgeuse is pointing our attention, drawing our attention. And, this fall, when I was doing this work, Betelgeuse was right over top of Israel looking east, drawing our attention to Israel. All right, so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit, but I want to note that Tom Horn passed away yesterday, and so I'm a really good reader, but I'm not an avid reader. I read very purposefully certain things that I feel the Lord drawing my attention to, and this book by Tom Horn, I'd highly encourage you to read it. So good. I'm going to reference it in this teaching here in a minute, and then also in the follow-up video, I'm going to go into some more detail. So this book, very, very good, very interesting, Zeitgeist, Countdown to the Secret Destiny of America, and he's pointing to 2025. So I'll allude to that. So what the purpose of in this video, what I want to talk to briefly is that he talks about the Essene calendar. And so the Essenes were a group of people living in Qumran at the end of, at the turn of the century before BC and AD, and also in the time of Jesus. And so they were attacked in 70 AD. All of the people there died. They were all killed. And so I've been there. I'm actually thinking of Masada right now, so I might have that incorrect. But anyway, that timing, it was right around that time. So there's records that indicate that Saul, when he became Paul, he actually went and spent 3 years being trained by the Essenes. So all of these people, these Essenes lived in this particular area in Qumran, and they found the Qumran scrolls a number of years ago. And so the Essene calendar is one of those things that has come forth in recent history. So Tom Horn studied the Essene calendar. There's also another person that I'll reference here a little bit later, or maybe in the next video, talking about the Essenes calendar. But so the Essenes had a much different calendar than the one used by the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and certainly different than what we use today in the Chabad calendar, the Hebrew calendar, the Jewish calendar. According to the Essenes' writing, the Pharisees were using a corrupt pagan lunar calendar, and the Essenes preserved the original solar calendar that God gave to Adam. Even more astonishing, this was prophesied in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Book of Jubilees, which was kept by the Essenes in Qumran, states, "There will be those who will make observations of the moon, for this one, the moon, corrupts the stated times and comes out earlier each year by 10 days. And in this way they will corrupt the years and will observe a wrong day as the day of testimony and a corrupted festival day. And everyone will mix holy days with unclean ones and unclean with holy, for they will err as to months and Sabbaths and festivals and jubilees." So this is in the Book of Jubilees. Okay. So I'm going to kind of jump down here. The Essene calendar is based on the 7-day week. Saturday is still the Sabbath, making Sunday the 1st, Monday the 2nd, and so on. And interestingly, because the sun, moon, and stars were created on the 4th day, the Essene calendar has the beginning of every year start on a Wednesday. Okay, and so the Essene calendar is based on a 364-day year that begins on the spring equinox, when there's an equal amount of day and night. It is also set up so that everything comes out the same every year, because 364 days means the year is exactly 52 weeks with no leftover days. The Essene calendar has 12 months of 30 days. Every season is 90 days long, with a takufa, or basically a skip day, in between each one. And so the way that it works is the calendar, the new Hebrew year, always begins on a Wednesday, which means that Passover, which is the 14th day, always happens on a Tuesday. Okay? So that's kind of the key thing. So when I dropped that math into Excel, and I said, when is the vernal equinox? And it's the vernal equinox on our calendar is always March 20th. But it happens at different times. Okay, and March 20th might be on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, could be on a different time. But if we know that the first of the year, the Hebrew year, I'm going to call it Hebrew year, not Jewish year, but Hebrew year, God's calendar year, according to the Essenes, starts on a Wednesday, we can say, here is the starting day of each year. So next year, the year would start on March 27th, which would mean Passover is April 9th. So that's why I've been referencing in this video that Passover begins basically hours after America has had its solar eclipse. Okay, because the solar eclipse is not over Israel. It's not happening over Israel. It's happening over America. But according to the Essene calendar, April 9th of next year will be Passover. So then you can figure out, when was Jesus, his resurrection, which was 3 days and 3 nights, because that's what the Bible tells us, and the morrow after the Sabbath, and when was Pentecost, and so again, every 90 days there's a skip day, and so the 7th month starts. Rosh Hashanah would be on September 25th next year, with Yom Kippur on October 5th, and Sukkot on October 10th. Okay? So that's how the Essenes calendar works. All right, so I went pretty darn fast, but I want to summarize what I've shared with you in this video. And again, there's more details about most of this in previous videos. So I believe, here's what I believe, okay? And I'm just a person and I could be wrong, but I trust the Lord and I trust what he said to me specifically. And I trust the things as they're coming together. So 2 of the 7 seals of the scroll have been opened. We're in a season of war, the 2nd seal. Israel is now at war, we know that. World War III is upon us, and we'll start with an orchestrated attack against Miami, San Francisco, and Chicago. I'm going to go into some detail on that in a second. The Lord told me that he was raising up the Josephs. The Josephs include the children of Manasseh. The Lord instructed me to lead my brothers Manasseh back to him. The famine begins on January 16th in an upcoming year and will coincide with the 3rd seal being opened as the 3rd horse of famine rides. In 2024, all the planets are aligned in the heavens and appear to be pointing towards Taurus. Taurus represents the tribe of Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh. On April 8th of 2024, there's a second total solar eclipse over all of the U.S., with Jupiter entering Taurus. America is sealed for redemptive judgment. The planets will form the shape of a V. This is tied to the economic system collapse and changing currency. You can also say ... New World Order. Passover in Israel begins the next day on April 9th of 2024 in Israel, according to the Essenes calendar. Right, so the times we're living in today, prophecies being fulfilled before our eyes. So I've already mentioned the first 2 seals of the 7 seals have been opened. We are in a state of war. So this is from Zephaniah 2, verses 4-7. Gaza will be abandoned and Ashkelon left in ruins. At midday, Ashdod will be emptied and Ekron uprooted. Woe to you who live by the sea, you Kerethite people. The word of the Lord is against you, Canaan, land of the Philistines. He says, I will destroy you and none will be left. The land by the sea will become pastures, having wells for shepherds and pens for flocks. The land will belong to the remnant of the people of Judah. There they will find pasture. In the evening they will lie down in the houses of Ashkelon. The Lord their God will care for them. He will restore their fortune. So we saw that on October 7th that Israel was attacked by Hamas and then attacked by Hezbollah, and that, there's just incredible atrocities happening. My friend Micah, who is a Jewish man who served in the IDF in years past, the Lord put this scripture specifically on his heart. as this was the fulfillment of this in what happened. So I personally believe that we are going to see war continue, that this isn't going to just be a skirmish, or we're going to see this escalate from here, leading to eventually World War III, where all the nations of the earth are drawn in. And so looking for other fulfillment, future fulfillment, this I'm asking, is this in process? Has it been in process for a while? See, this is Isaiah 17. See, Damascus will no longer be a city, but will become a heap of ruins. This is what just one neighborhood of Damascus looks like today. Other scripture, will this be next? Psalm 83. Some believe that this has begun. O God, do not remain silent. Do not turn a deaf ear. Do not stand aloof, O God. See how your enemies growl, how your foes rear their heads. With cunning they conspire against your people. They plot against those you cherish. Come, they say, let us destroy them as a nation, so that Israel's name is remembered no more. And it goes on to talk about all the different nations. And I listened to a really good video by Mina Lee Gribben and Joni Stahl that was done, I think, last week, where they talk about Psalm 83 specifically, and the nations of the earth gathered, and some of the prophetic things the Lord's spoken to them over the years, and believing that Psalm 83, war has begun. Ezekiel 38. So this is what I believe. This is what I believe will happen soon. And this could be potentially in this, even anytime this fall or into 2024. This is the Gog and Magog. So the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief priest of Meshech and Tubal. Prophesy against him and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says, I am against you, Gog, chief priest of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaw, and bring you out with your whole army. Your horses, your horsemen fully armed, and a great horde with large and small shields. All of them brandishing swords. Persia, Cush, and will put with them all their shields and helmets. Also Gomer with its troops, and Beth Togarmah, from the far north with all its troops, the many nations with you. Get ready, be prepared, you and all your hordes gathered about you, and take command of them. After many days you will be called to arms. And here's where it talks about in future years. So this is our time. In future years, you will invade a land that has recovered from war. So maybe it'll seem like, I don't know, maybe it'll seem like Israel has recovered and then they will attack. Or perhaps maybe it's already this time and they're talking about, the wars of past, like the 1967 war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. They'd been brought out from the nations, and now all of them live in safety. You and all your troops and the many nations with you will go up advancing like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. So it's talking about Israel, right? Okay, I want to switch gears because here's what I believe, that this next part's talking about the United States. This is what the sovereign Lord says. On that day, thoughts will come into your mind, and you'll devise an evil scheme. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. So some people like to say, well, that's still Israel. And I would say that's not. I've been to Israel twice. It's definitely not the land of unwalled villages. There's walls. There's a lot of walls and a lot of walls in a lot of places. I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people. And I don't think that that's Israel either. They are not, they are a peaceful people, but they're not unsuspecting. That's why they have the army that they have. All of them living without walls and without gates and bars. And I would say that represents our country. I will plunder and loot and turn my hand against the resettled ruins and the people gathered from the nations, rich in livestock and goods, living at the center of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all of the villages will say to you, have you come to plunder? Have you gathered your hordes to loot, to carry off silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to seize much plunder? So this is the Russia peace, the Israel peace, and the United States peace, in my opinion. This is the prophecy the Lord gave me on October 8th, the day after Israel was attacked. So I wrote this down. So on 10/7, as I was waking, I saw a picture of an open door frame, and I heard the Lord speak to my heart. I have set before you an open door. I knew that there was an invitation to something, but didn't know what it was. Then early this morning, the Lord woke me at 3:39 and began speaking to me. I went into my prayer closet to draw close to his heart and to make notes of what he was saying and wanted to show me. The Lord drew my attention that yesterday was 10/7, and now it was the next day, 10/8. The number 7 stands for completion, and the number 8 represents a new beginning. I believe there was a personal application for the Lord pointing this out, but I also believe in a more corporate one. I was aware that the Yom Kippur War of 1973 was 50 years ago, and that Israel had declared war yesterday on the 7th after an attack from Gaza by Hamas. My understanding was the season of the last 50 years had ended, and we had now entered a new season for Israel as God's timepiece. I closed my eyes and saw the open doorway that the Lord had shown me the day before. I walked through it, the pitch black doorway, and took steps into it. It remained dark, but then it was like a curtain was moved aside. I was standing above our country as if hovering in the air at a height of 50,000 feet. I was looking down on the outline of the Florida coast. I was drawn to the southeast region where I knew Miami existed. I saw an industrial area off the coast and then an explosion. At the moment, I was reminded of a word the Lord gave me many years ago that involved how World War III would begin. Then I was drawn over the earth to hover over the southwest coast of our country, with my attention drawn to the region of San Francisco. I saw what looked like rows of large propane tanks and then an explosion. Because of past things the Lord had spoke to me, I knew that I would then be taken to the central area of our country, to Chicago. I recognized the Navy Pier and then saw another explosion nearby. I knew that the 3 explosions I was seeing was not in real time, but a view of events that are tied together and will happen in the future. I was reminded of 2 more recent experiences with the Lord. In one, he showed me that the inside of trailers were being filled with military equipment and bombs in position for future destruction. I believe this may be how the attack is planned for. So on December 21st of 2015, I heard this from the Lord. An event will occur that will begin World War III, and there is to be no stopping it. Look to Miami, look to Chicago, look to San Francisco. And then on September 17th of 2022, he said to me in a prophetic word, watch Miami, watch San Francisco, watch Chicago. So this is the 3rd time he's shown, but this time, instead of just speaking it, I went into a vision and literally saw it happening. And so that's kind of the latest word. So all that can feel very heavy, can feel very overwhelming. But what we have to know is God has a plan. He wrote the end from the beginning. He always planned to have a people and that they would know him. He knew that they would fall away from him, be scattered across the earth. And he knew that he would regather them in the last days. And we're living in those last days. So in Ezekiel 28, it says, this is what the sovereign Lord says. When I gather the people of Israel from the nations where they have been scattered, I will be proved holy through them in the sight of the nations. Then they will live in their own land, which I gave to my servant Jacob, Israel. They will live there in safety and will build houses and plant vineyards. They will live in safety when I inflict punishment on all their neighbors who maligned them. Then they will know that I am the Lord their God. And we can expect to see the Lord do this. He is going to regather his people, including Manasseh, which I believe are the people of the United States. So in the next video, I will tie some of these things into what the Lord is showing me, what I'm seeing, and what we can see in the signs of the heavens coming for 2026 through 2029. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Bless you.